He walked everywhere, to work, to shop, to visit loved ones. According to DeAndre Moss's family, the young man from Natchitoches with special needs never sat still. But 5 weeks ago, DeAndre's love of walking cost him his life. He was killed while walking home from work. Instead of grieving, DeAndre's family says they're growing frustrated.
They fear police might be protecting the person responsible for his death. So they called KSLA Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey for help.
Along a stretch of Highway 6 in the city of Natchitoches at a few minutes past 10 o'clock on the night of October 4th,
911, where's your emergency?
a horrible accident.
Yeah, I need an ambulance on Highway 6 going toward 49, right across the street from the State Farm building.
DeAndre Moss, a 23-year-old man with special needs, walking home from work at Wendy's, is struck by a car
I got a hit and run. Whoever hit him kept going.
and left bleeding on the side of the highway.
He's down here laying down. He's hemorrhaging real bad.
That voice you hear on the 911 call
DeAndre, come on, baby.
is DeAndre's uncle, Ronald Cross. He witnessed the accident, staying with Moss until an ambulance arrived.
He was one of my kids. He was one of my kids.
Katie Cross is DeAndre's aunt. She says her husband, Ronald, called her as soon as first responders got on scene.
He said, Katie, the first call I got, Katie, the car just swept him off his feet. He said it just kept going. No braking, no nothing. It just kept going.
Fighting for his life, Katie says DeAndre was airlifted to a Shreveport hospital where he died the next day.
I feel like I went to sleep and I must have hit my head or something. And in this dream, it's telling me he's gone, but I'm trying to walk and get there, you know, and get to the end so that he can meet me and saying, Katie, I'm right here.
According to this crash report, a 17-year-old girl, Allyrica Winder, drove the car that hit and killed DeAndre. She allegedly left the accident without stopping, driving a mile down the highway, calling her mom from this Sonic restaurant. The report states the teenager eventually returned to the scene with her mother, telling police she didn't know what she had hit. While the responding officer described the accident as a hit-and-run crash, police didn't arrest the young woman or even give her a ticket.
He lost his life. He lost his life.
Talking with me at a city park, Katie says she fears the Natchitoches Police Department is protecting Allyrica Winder.
I do, sir. I do.
Not charging her in the deadly accident, according to Katie, because the girl's grandfather is a detective with the Natchitoches Parish Sheriff's Office.
Angry? Makes me feel angry, but I know DeAndre don't want me to be upset. He don't want me to be mad, but I just want justice for him.
After speaking with Katie, I went to NPD headquarters to ask about the investigation.
The victim's name was DeAndre Moss.
And why there's been no arrest. Told the chief of police and case detective weren't in. I tried making an appointment for the next day.
Okay, well, can you leave a note with him? Let him know I'll be here at 9:30 in the morning to come talk to him. Okay.
Hold on. On my drive down to Natchitoches the following morning, Chief Mickey Dove called. He told me he wasn't going to talk about the investigation, and he also said he had no idea if the young lady driving the car that killed DeAndre Moss was related to a Natchitoches Parish Sheriff's detective. So, getting nowhere with NPD officials.
The officer did not push the driver to determine were they distracted.
I gave Professor Riley Young a copy of the crash report. He's a retired Shreveport detective and former police academy instructor.
They saw what looked like blood or flush around the headlight well and the right fender. They saw hair on the windshield.
Now teaching criminal justice at LSUS.
My question would have been, were you distracted? Because other than that, you know, there's no way you should not have seen a person walking in the road.
In Young's opinion, the investigation into DeAndre's death is incomplete.
I don't think that the officer asked the right types of questions that could have shed a lot of light on what actually happened.
For example, he points out the officer never examined the driver's cell phone. A toxicology test wasn't given, and the report doesn't indicate the driver's speed. Finally, Young says the driver's actions after the accident.
When you strike them to hit your windshield and leave hair on your windshield, how is it that you not know that that was a person?
Indicate to him Lyrica Winder knew she hit a person, not an animal.
Why did she stop and check, and why did she call her mother? To me, those are questions that, well, why were you so concerned if you didn't really think it was anything? You know, okay, the car was damaged, nothing you could do that night anyway, just go on home.
Hoping to speak with police officials about Young's observations, I went back to NPD.
Are you the assistant chief?
I'm the assistant chief.
I wanted to talk to him about the DeAndre Moss hit and run, fatal hit and run accident. Someone can tell me, are there going to be any charges or citations issued in that case?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not the one to be able to tell you.
Getting told once again, only the chief could talk about the investigation. So I sent a formal interview request by email, but Chief Dove declined to sit down.
How did this take place?
Still grieving DeAndre's passing, feeling NPD is burying the truth, Katie Cross says her last hope now is to pray some other law enforcement agency picks up the investigation and gets justice for DeAndre.
We can never truly put this behind us, but I want to know that he's sitting up there looking down and said my auntie did everything it was for me.
Now, I did speak with the Lyrica Winder's grandfather, the sheriff's detective. He tells me he's had no communication with the Natchitoches Police Department regarding this case or his granddaughter. Now, unwilling to sit down and answer my questions, Chief Mickey Dove did type up this letter instead, writing Katie's fear that police possibly are protecting this young driver. He calls that a preposterous conclusion. He also wrote his department inadvertently overlooked, issuing a press release to update us and the folks of Natchitoches that DeAndre died in that hit-and-run accident. Now, not to be overlooked is the fact that Katie Moss tells me last week her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit. I'll let you know what happens. I'm Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey Cameron.